Here, I will make a stop to develop a little bit, because I have also some experience like that. Now, it's very common for me, to have a look, of course, because it's when you do research, you make also very often you make, some surveys of literature to be in connection with the evolution of the subject you are working on, you researchers. And when effectively, because it's in function of the different subject, of course I am working on different research subjects. When I'm connected to the literature, sometimes, of course I download many papers to have a careful look of the research, and now, and it's really very recent, I often find mistakes in this paper. I'm talking about already published paper. They are published and identified in the system, and this paper contain mistakes. That's only possible by two reasons. One, effectively, the researchers of the group of researchers who published this paper didn't control their data. And this is connected to the thing I said, previously, because if you have to have pressure, you want to go fast as possible to the publication without verifying the results, but also, of course, because here in scientific publication we have results only if you have a lot of big means, scientific equipment. If you don't verify all measurements, you can introduce a lot of mistakes, errors in the system, and then in your results, and then in the publication. And if you don't have any sufficient background, you don't see what we call in Europe, you don't see the wolf. That means, effectively, you don't see the danger and the mistakes, introduced in this paper. But nevertheless, now it's very common to see large mistakes, big mistakes, published in the published paper. I mean the paper that are still online. So this is really a very bad effect of what we obtain with the pressure of the pop culture. Next, please. So then, the question, finally, what academics departments strive, for is to provide, a list at the end of the year containing a large number of publications. With this pressure, we have promotion, and sometimes effectively it's different in your system. For instance, you receive money when you publish. With some appearing in top journal. However, publishing a paper in a top journal doesn't guarantee any impact on the profession, and more importantly, on society. And this is also another system that is really largely highlighted, in the community, in the academic community, because every day there are tons of published paper. You can see it effectively. You just have a look, on the complete list of editors, of journals, of different kind of journals. We are talking now about tons of paper every day. So how to be distinguished in this system? This is the real important, because if you want to have a real effect of your publication, that must finally say that effectively other researchers in other locations of this world will be attracted by your publication, and then they will download and buy this paper to have a careful look on what we have done and what effectively you got as results. In this way, this is effectively the benefit for the complete community, because your result will be a benefit for finally other research activities. In this way, there is an interest. So, under the pop culture, the last thing a professor wants is a student knocking on a door to ask a question. So research-active professors strive to avoid teaching, even by buying out teaching time financed by grant money that's supposed to be to finance research. And here, this is an important also problem, because I said effectively, for academic professors, professors have to make the research, but also to teach. So they teach a lot. And it's a problem because normally we have to help our students to get, very good knowledge and skills. But effectively, one student is knocking to your door, effectively, there are two cases. One case, you are not present. You are, for instance, overseas for a conference. You can be in the lab, it's okay. But normally, effectively, your student can have questions. Questions for research also, and questions for academic, effectively, teaching. And normally, this is main part of our job to reply to the question from students. So if a researcher, because he doesn't want to waste time, and if he gives the full, effectively, direction to his research, finally, he won't receive students. And this is a bad effect of the system. So, other thing, on the pop, research and teaching cease to be complementary and become two incompatible functions. Because, effectively, as I said, one complete day is only 24 hours. So if you take all the time for research, you don't have time for teaching and for, effectively, exchanging with students. So the rise of pop can be attributed to change in university funding by government, which depends largely on research output. So indicative of this tendency is the distinction between the best and the rest. So between elite universities that have strong research records and the rest of university. And here, it's also very different because finally the pressure is the same for small and big university, but the different means of each establishment is very different. Because I guess, because my university is also considered as a small university. And in small university, the amount of very big means, is very different. So you cannot produce as well in the same way if you don't have the complete equipment, for instance. That's why, effectively, you understand now that the pop culture has different way to be effectively treated by researchers, whatever finally the place where the researchers is. So the quality of teaching and student satisfaction has no place in the equation. It's the equation defined by the pop culture. Because here, we are only talking in the pop culture, only talking about research publication. So this is also an imperfection, of the system. Next, please. So, yes, now, a small part about pop culture, which is a consequence of globalization and neoliberalism. Globalization has led to the, what is interesting because it's defined and you can find it in many places and in literature. We can call it globalization and the name of, McDonaldization of university is also used. This is interesting because, as you know, when I started to come in Indonesia, it was 15 years ago, I didn't see, I only saw at this time, McDonald's restaurant only in Jakarta. Now, McDonald's is spreading everywhere. You have here in Solo McDonald's now. And you have the complete set of American brands. Because yesterday evening, I discussing and I laughing with Boo Yoffman, about KFC, because you have, I know, all things from America. And here, the pop culture means effectively globalization, and we can also due to the influence of the West, globalization, we can also talk about McDonaldization of university. Because even here, in the other side of the earth, effectively, we can have the effect of the pop culture, because now, due to this globalization, Indonesian academics must follow this system. So, non-Western, that means non-Anglo-American system. So non-Western higher education system have been strongly influenced by the Anglo-American standards and ideologies. So globalization of higher education can be so interpreted, as a form of neo-colonialism that maintains the patterns of dependency and reinforces the superiority of Anglo-American scholarship. And that's why effectively in France, and I guess it will be for you the same in Indonesia, it's important to resist to this effect, because we can be crushed by this Anglo-American system. And if effectively we only follow the rules defined by the English and American rules, effectively, they will continue to be the leader of this system. But now, if you want to compete effectively, you have to resist to the system and to try to do as best as possible whatever this system. So, for instance, due to the globalization, your neighbors, for instance, Chinese university are putting great pressure on their staff to publish in journals separating the science citation index and, of course, other index. And here, as I already had connection with China, I can say it's really hard pressure. And you don't imagine to what level the pressure can be put. Because in my career, and also in my lab, we already have some Chinese students, Chinese PhD students. And you don't imagine the pressure received by China for this guy. And now it's also, of course, for Chinese in China. So in their own country, effectively, all these people and students receive very high pressure for publishing. You just can see effectively, if you have a look, even in special topic, in your topic of research, you have a look on literature, you can see the list, in the list of paper you extract, most part of name are Chinese name. It's because effectively Chinese government put very heavy money, so a lot of money in the means for the research development, but in the same time, also, they say, okay, you have equipment, now you have to put a lot of paper. That's why now also I receive also a lot of journals ask me to review paper, and they are very often, they come from China, but very often the quality of this paper is very low. And I decline to review. Because if you accept, it will be a very hard job. That's why very often when I review paper, even in very, in top-ranked journal, when I'm reviewer of this paper, it's very hard job, and for me it's free job. Okay? That means I use a huge part of my time to review the paper in view to improve the quality of the paper. Because I'm saying, I'm asking questions, I'm saying here, there is a lack of result, you have to add additional result, you have to develop the discussion, you have to compare your result to literature and so on. And sometimes it's very common now, the review can be done 3 times for the same paper. You imagine the time reviewer will give to the review. This is crazy. But that only show, finally, that the initial paper submitted to good journals has low quality. Because the results were not verified, were not confirmed by the study of many samples and so on. And this is a real criticism we have to do on this system. So next. So, adverse consequence of pop, of this pop culture. Adverse effects on you have also adverse effect, and this adverse effect are very bad because you can have effects on the health, on your health, and well-being of academics who are put under pressure to publish while under constant threat and publishing one way or another. Effectively, if you have hard pressure for publishing, that means you can have a lot of trouble for yourself. You know? I can say, effectively, I know here in Indonesia, the pressure is not really important. But effectively you have small pressure for publishing, okay? But in France, it's the same. There is a real pressure, but effectively, I have colleagues, you know, who made the choice, you know, to only work for teaching or for administration activities, and they really don't publish a lot, so only some papers. But in many countries now, especially in the western part and in the UK and the USA and in China, you know, in all finally countries which accept finally this globalization of the pop culture, the researchers are under very high pressure. And effectively, by receiving high pressure, you can be crushed like a peanut on which you apply a high pressure. So this is a very important effect because for everyone, everyone has to take care, you know, of his health and well-being. Well-being is very important for everyone, okay? And when you are very young, for a young student, you don't measure it, but when you become older, you know, I mean in 10 or 20 years, you will fully understand how well-being is very important, or very important, yeah. So, for instance, you know, this effect was largely studied by Kinman and Ray. So they used health and safety exclusive measures, assessed again the live sample over, you know, 14,000 university employees. You mean this study was really great, to reveal growing stress level among academics prompted by heavy workloads, long hour cultures, and conflicting management demands. They found that academics experience higher stress, you know, than those in wider population. That means, effectively, this is really, you know, strange. And this is a very bad consequence of the pop culture with this high pressure developed and applied to researchers. So the environment created by the pop is punitive, you know, resulting in negative influence on life balance, health, and well-being. This is a bad effect because in every system, okay, I have talked about the benefit. Benefits is growing up. You go up, okay, you increase quality, you increase normally. You have an interest in research, and I'm talking of that also of to you, young girls, to you, so students. It's very important to believe in research because it's the way of how to do very interesting things to improve every day your knowledge and skills, because you know that's like me. I'm senior, effectively professor, but I continue to learn something, you know, every day. Because effectively sciences have no limit. And new technologies, new way of studying, you know, some new parts of research, because new equipment can permit you to have a new look on your samples, for instance, and to finally study your materials in another way to find other properties. That means effectively you can learn everything, and this is really very exciting for every activities in research. And in this way, you can find the energy to improve effectively your research, your production, and your skills. And this is very, of course, I was talking about effectively the merit. You can be pushed to higher position with the merit. The identification by the system of your merit. This is very positive. But I also talk about bad effects because you have to take care of you. The system, you know, does not respect, you know, individuals. That means effectively the system will not take care of you. Of course, the only person who can take care of you is you. So that's why it's important to follow this rule for himself and to take care of you. Of course, you, young guys and girls, effectively, you continue effectively to live, you know, under the, effectively, under the influence of your parents, and they take care of you, okay? But in future, you will be fully, you know, autonomous. You will have your own life, an adult life. And at this time, it will be important to make choices for you, for yourself, for your well-being, and take care of you, of course. So it's that was, I also showed effectively that was largely studies, and that's why effectively this is important. Next, please. So another thing, publish or publish, but where? What is the value of these famous impact factors? Because in this system, you will face with the publication to the effect of impact factors. What is impact factor? This factor, you know, is one measure used by reference. It was defined by Thomson Reuters to evaluate the relevance of a journal over time. That means, effectively, you have journals, and associated to journals, you have different kinds of impact factors. So, this impact factors is obtained by dividing the number of citations in a given year to articles from the previous 2 years of publication, by the number of articles that were published in the past 2 years in a journal. So you imagine that finally the impact factor, you know, it's a figure without unity. That means effectively this is a ratio, and you have the definition of this ratio. So when promotion depends upon publishing in the most widely read journals with high impact factors, one of them, very well known, American, Science. This doesn't a disservice to your field. Publication is essential, otherwise our work is useless, but the impact has to be judged within the field, not on a global basis. So, to have a comment, you know, on this, I will say, you know, even for me, I'm not, since a long time, I decided for myself to not only follow the rules defined by the impact factor, because I'm choosing journals from effectively the way to be connected to one special community in function of the topic I'm working on at the moment. So I do not only aim finally the impact factor. For me, that's not interesting. You know, I have an interest in the community I will communicate with. But nevertheless, of course, I do not publish in effectively non-identified journal. You know, all my publications are in international journals, nevertheless. But in this system, you know, you can find journals with impact factors ranging from 2 to 20. You see? But I don't give, effectively, I don't focus only on very high impact factor, because for me it's not essential. So, when I talk about promotion, so we have to take care about that, but of course publication is essential, okay. But no matter what statistical methods are developed based on citation, experienced scientists in given field are necessary to evaluate the scientific, effectively, merit of submitted article. This is important because after that you publish a paper, but who will read it? Yeah? For me, this is also important because after that, when you have published your paper, after hard work, you know, because it's a very, very good journal, you collected many data and you analyzed, you treated the data, you made a lot of figures, you discussed about this result and so on. That's why effectively the process, the complete process means a very long time. And you can take at least 1 year to finally have the accepted paper, you know, in the final form. And for me, it's very important that finally my research, my paper, will be read by someone, somewhere. Because if there isn't anyone, researchers, you know, whatever the place in this world, who have an interest in your research, what is interest? Because I come back effectively to the main item of the research. Normally, all research should have an impact of the society. This is the main, normally, motivation of research and publication. So if you have no interest, if your research has no effect on the society, that means your research doesn't mean anything. So, in Europe, there is also an interesting connection. I will take you about, give you some experience, my experience. For a solid oxide fuel cell, I chose, you know, 8 years ago to, you know, to turn to completely, you know, choose a new direction for my research on this subject, because for solid oxide fuel cell, there are a lot of different technologies. In function, of course, of the temperature range. The difference between the technology means the difference of the temperature range. So maybe, maybe there are some students who don't know what is a fuel cell. Fuel cell, you know, it's a power generator. It's a power converter. Fuel cell is used, you know, to convert hydrogen into electricity. So we are talking about electrical energy production. This is an important technology. It was invented, you know, in the 60s. The first demonstrator was developed in France by, effectively, Commissariat à l'énergie atomique. That means, effectively, Atomic Energy Institute. At this time, effectively, that was the first real demonstrator who gave the evidence of the interest of this new technology. So now, we have a gain of interest, you know, and recently, because this is a powerful way to produce electricity from hydrogen. After that, of course, you have to ask you the question how to produce the hydrogen. Okay, this is another question. But nevertheless, with this topic, I've been developing this topic since 10 years. So 8 years ago, you know, I chose a new trend, you know, for this technology. And I worked on what we call, you know, metallic supported, you know, high intermediate temperature solid oxide fuel cell. That means a new technology with metallic support. So at this time, I started to develop connection with industrials because I needed to find a metallic support adapted to this application. So I started to be connected with industries, metallic, who produce, metallic equipment, metallic media. And this is really a good thing for me because after that, I started with connection to a small industry, but now I have a connection with the major producer of micrometric metallic fibers because they have developed a very special technology to produce micrometric metallic fibers. And now I have the connection with this international group, and they give me freely, all samples for my metallic support. That means effectively, and to develop this special link, of course, you have to give them some interesting information for them. Because if they have no interest in this collaboration, they will not give you things interesting for you, okay? Because when they give you effectively some things, that means they give you money. So, and here this is another interest of research, because you can develop connection with industries. And you have direct application of your subject in research. Okay, so I discussed effectively about impact factor and about effectively the effect of publication. I discussed about the effect on promotion. And of course, finally, I can say effectively that we need strong peer review in all aspects of our work, because I'm talking about my own experience on review. Without the review, you have no quality in research, because the reviewers are the main key of the system. If you delete effectively the review process, so if you don't have peer review process, you don't have any quality, of course. So every time, if you want to publish young researcher and even, senior researcher, if you want to publish very good quality papers, of course, with impact factors, you will effectively select journals because they have also a good review process. Because without that, your paper, your result will not be evaluated, will not be eventually corrected. That's why effectively I said you, and this is very common for me, I am saying to the authors generally in the review process, okay, no, your figure is false. You didn't treat the data correctly. So without this strong peer review process, you don't reach the real quality of the research. Next, please. Next. Yeah, thank you. So to protect credibility in science, some researcher, like effectively this one, she is a very good researcher in Max Planck Institute in Germany. Max Planck Institute is maybe one of the best establishments of Germany. Very high-ranked establishment in Germany. And these researchers, effectively, she published effectively this paper. You have the line here, And the title was "To Protect Credibility in Science, Banish, Publish, or Perish." That's why, effectively, you see that the effects of this pop culture, is largely criticized all over the world. You will see, because effectively, I won't have enough time to develop completely this subject. But as I said, if you have a look on the literature, you can find more than 300 books and papers related to this subject. That was effectively the pop culture has been largely studied by many people, many researchers. And now we have a lot of data about this culture. And of course, that's why criticism is very a benefit for everyone. And here, because I'm talking about quality for research, without quality, there is no publishing process. It's not possible to reach the quality. Quality of research is needed, and that's why effectively I can make a link with criticism. Criticism is fundamental. Without criticism, there isn't any progress. You know? When I review things, when I review of effectively the defense of my students, when I review effectively, I'm also currently a reviewer in some effectively juries of thesis defense. Of course, my talk is always the same. You know, I say to these people who are under my review, I'm saying them, I will say you know, in this review some good things, but I will also hear you some bad things. And I do not have pleasure to see bad things about you. I am doing a positive criticism. Because without any positive criticism, it's impossible to improve any subject. You know, by taking care of all criticisms coming from other people and in a positive way, okay? It's not a bad criticism because it's not about finally the human quality of the people, you know? It's only connected to the scientific way of approach of effectively the data presented by the students, the PhD, or the researcher.
5 minutes.
Yep.
5 minutes left.
Yeah, 5 minutes, okay. That will be possible. So, this process produces poorly trained scientists and discourages those experiments that may require more careful consideration, more risk, and lengthier data collection. That's what I said. Because if you don't take care to the data collection, you will introduce very fundamental errors. And this is a real problem. Then, when the primary aim for PhD students and scientists is to publish as prolifically as possible, not only do we incentivize, poor scientific practice, we also got the economy of scientific paper. This is another important one. So affording students and scientists the time to discover experimental and theoretical hands, for themselves. So this is really important, to afford students and scientists sufficient time. Because we need time. When we make the research, we need time. It's not possible to collect very quickly very good results. Because this result, when you do experiment, must be verified. In many cases, that means you have to repeat these experiments. By repeating the experiment, you collect new set of data. You compare the first set to the second to the third. For my experience in my lab, I do not accept that my students make only one sample. That's not possible, because one sample can, by itself, contain a lot of problems. So if your results are results of bad samples, of course, that means your results and your research is very bad. That's why you have to take sufficient time to fabricate, to obtain very good samples. When the samples are very good, you can expect then very good results. And with a very good treatment of these results, effectively, you will produce very good published data. So, let us place our focus squarely on improving the rigor of the method as opposed to optimizing for specific outcomes. And these very good things at the end of this slide, you know, to paraphrase Feynman, nature cannot be fooled, so nature can be. So here, I explain, nature is Mother Nature. Mother Nature cannot be fooled, you know, because we all come from this nature and we depend on this nature. Everything for every time, every day for the food, for the water, and so on. But nature can be. Nature, we are talking here in this paraphrase. The author, you know, Feynman, is talking about nature, the journal Nature, which is one of the most ranked journals. But effectively, this is a really philosophic sentence which has really interest. Next. To finish, you know, one figure published effectively in this journal, and I put the title, you know, of the publish and perish principle divides the science. And here, you know, because this POP system, you know, not only affect hard sciences, you know, of course, it's for all publications, you know, in the academic, so it can touch effectively human sciences, economics, hard sciences. And here in this paper, you know, I found this figure very interesting because this figure is shown, you know, in function of the different operator. I mean, on the left, you have the case of PhD student. Next, you have assistant professor, associate professor, and then full professor. And here, with a different color, you see, on blue, you have the teaching. On black, you have the publication. On gray, you have the funding. And funding means you have to deposit proposals for getting money in your lab, for your research. Because a small part of the money is coming from your university. Another very tiny part is coming from your lab. But like for me, most part, if I want to make the big research, most part of the money, because for me, I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of euros, because big equipment needs big money. Huh? I have to find very big money. So this is funding coming from outside. And then you have the administration job, administrative activities. So of course, a student mainly doesn't have any administrative activities. Sometimes little things due to, for instance, the participation of some councils in France. You know, PhD students can participate to some councils in university. But when you become professor, you have more and more, finally, administrative activities. Then, PhD student, you know, for PhD student, most part of the pressure is coming from publication, because you have to produce the result during his thesis, and then you have to publish it. For PhD student, also another thing, you know, teaching is not very important. Here, effectively, PhD student can be a lecturer, junior lecturer, and to give some lectures to some students, undergraduate students. In France, that's the same, but it's not, it can be permitted, but a PhD student can do his research, without any teaching in France. And, of course, for a PhD student, normally, the part of the funding research is very small. Here, it's only the case, for economics. For science, the PhD student have no pressure to find money. Of course, the money is not coming from him, the PhD student don't look after finally financial support, because this is the responsibility of the supervisor. And the supervisor can be effectively assistant, associate, or full professor. And you can see on the other, effectively, people, that finally the pressure is different in function of the position. If I detail finally between associate professor and full professor, you can see that effectively, if you add all pressure for a full professor, you have, for each items, you have at least, 40% of this pressure. That means this pressure, if you add all figures of the different pressure, for a full professor, of course, the pressure is very high, because the full professor receives pressure from every activity. So when you put more and more pressure, that can be a problem, for a long time. Because a lot of pressure, effectively, for a very long time, can induce, effectively, very bad well-being for the people, okay? And then it's different, for assistant and associate professor. Generally, they have less responsibility, so finally, they have to teach. So teaching for professors, as you know, has an impact, effectively, because teaching is very important. You have to do a very large number of teaching hours. And then, of course, publication have also another effect. So that's why, effectively, I chose this figure, because we had effectively the opportunity to discuss about the different pressure, and why, effectively, we have to take care of this pressure, because there are benefits, but also very poor effects on every researcher. Next. And just to finish, you see, of course, in your language, apakah itu? Dan bagaimana menggunakannya? So, how to use it? And you can see, effectively, there is a link. You have a site, I don't know if finally this site, because I did not have time to verify it, I don't know if this site is Indonesian or Malaysian. So, but nevertheless, this subject of publish or perish is also studied, in your country. So that's why it was, I found it was interesting to show you that effectively the subject is also discussed in your country. So next, and effectively, terima kasih atas perhatian Anda.
Okay, this is very, very interesting topic today. Publish or perish. Yeah, okay, thank you very much, Professor Didier, for your presentation today. Okay, the next session, we can have a question for student or also for lecturer. Okay, please sit here. Yeah. Okay, yes. Any question for student? Oh, okay. I want to student. Okay, at the back. Yes, please, your name.
First of all, thank you so much for insightful presentation. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Ali, and I am an international student from Pakistan, studying Master of Bioscience here in MIPA. Professor, my question is that, as you mentioned in your slide, there is a high pressure for publication for PhD students and assistant professor, associate, and then professor. Due to this high pressure of publication, there is a rise of predatory journals also, because there is a pressure for publication. So in your concern and your suggestion, what do you think that how to backtrack these kind of predatory journal, and what ethical consideration we should consider for that? That's my question. Thank you.
So your question is effectively about publication and how to select journals.
Yeah, for predatory journals especially, because it gives rise to predatory journals. So how can we tackle that kind of issue as a student?
So effectively, when everyone has to publish, of course, and how to select the journal. So at first I recommend not to focus on the impact factor. Mainly, you will focus on what we call, and very important, and also I guess next year, because I have to come back next year, I will discuss about also really about the way to write the paper. I will go deeper, in this process. I will discuss in the explanation about how to write a paper, and about how to write finally the cover letter. Cover letter is very important because it's a discussion between you and the editor of the journal. It's like, when you want to find a position, a job somewhere, what are you doing? You have a look, on the website, on journals, on newspapers, and so on, and you find, some things, some announcement, and okay, you see some links and so on, and then you send them your CV, resume, and motivation letter. That means you start a connection with, effectively, the establishment, industry, and so on, administration, whatever you want. When you publish, you need to make the connection with one journal and with the editor. And generally, it's not directly the editor. This is the secretary of editor. You need to develop this connection. And in this first thing, I come back to the example of the CV, when you send your CV somewhere. In France and in Europe, I will say in the Western way of examination of CV, all manager, who will receive your CV, will read the CV, in 30 seconds. Their time is very precious, so that means they don't have a lot of time to read your complete CV. They will read your CV in 30 seconds. That's very quick. Yeah, isn't it? And that means you have 30 seconds to convince effectively someone that you can effectively be selected. When you send, I come back to publication, when you send your paper with all things and with cover letter, with the cover letter, which is the first document that will be read, by the editors, office, you have to make the connection. That means you have to give interesting things to the editors to decide him to select your paper for the next step. That doesn't mean your paper will be accepted. Of course, that means the editor say, okay, I accept that your paper follow the review process. So that means effectively you pass the first step. And you can go to the second step, which is the review process. So, in this way, effectively, it's very important to really take a lot of care. That's what I already say, to my PhD student. And I am saying, don't send directly the cover letter. I want you write the cover letter. You send the cover letter to me. I will optimize the letter. I will criticize it, and I will ask you to modify it in the way of the journal. And of course, before sending your paper and before selecting a journal, before sending them all the things with the cover letter, and also before writing the cover letter, you have to identify 5 papers that can be connected to your research. And of course, you selected, how can you select this journal? Just by having a look, on their website, and to focus on aims and scope. Most important thing is to have a look directly on aims and scope of the journal. If you fully understand that finally your research can be fully adapted to aims and scope of the journal, okay, you can go ahead, as a process, and you can write your letter just to try, to convince the editor that your research will be a benefit for the publication and for the journal. That means you make the link between your research, your results, and aim and scope of the journal. This is, very important way to select 1 or 2 or 3 journals. But of course, you will have a look also on the impact factor. But even for, I will say, a low impact factor, like 1 or 2, it's possible to publish in function of your research and in function of the aim and scope of the journal. Because another thing is important to have in mind, that you are in competition, for instance, it's just an example. Huh? I don't have anything against China, huh? But it's an example. I will also add in the discussion, I will also talk about China and India. In India now there are a lot of production also, of scientific production. Because you are the Chinese and the Indians, we are talking about effectively something, close to 3 billion people. And of course, they have a huge force of scientific production. So they will completely, effectively flood all journals with papers. That means, effectively, due to the high pressure of the pop culture, most part of these researchers from India, from China, will try to publish in very high impact factor journals. And these journals with high impact factor receive every day thousands of papers. You imagine that, effectively, the editor office does not have sufficient time to read all these things. That's why, for high impact factor, you have a high chance to be rejected directly, whatever the quality of your paper. Just because they have a look on the cover letter, they say, maybe this is not in relation directly with our aim and scope. So maybe, effectively, we don't have any interest to publish this research, and they reject your paper without any view on your result, on the quality of your result. You see? That's why it can be dangerous, to select directly a high impact factor journal, because you have a lot of chance to be directly rejected. but you can try nevertheless. You can try, you know, with a high impact factor, and then you decrease without going too low, effectively. Huh? Because you can find a lot of good journals. You know, one of my topic, for instance, when I'm producing thin films, I only produce them with sol-gel technique. And due to the sol-gel technique, I have interest in this very good technique. I want to publish in Journal of Sol-Gel Technology. You know, Journal of Science and Sol-Gel Technology. It's from also very good editor, very good editing company, but the impact factor is not very high. I guess it's between 2 and 3. Well, it's not very high, but I consider it's very good journal because effectively that's directly linked to my deposition technique. And it's important for me to be connected to my community about effectively researchers who are using effectively the sol-gel technique. You understand? And this is the way to have satisfaction. You satisfaction to publish and to be in relation with your community, your scientific community. And I really invite you to follow this way of publication.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. Because this gives rise to the predatory journal. I understand that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. The next is Paiwan. Nick.
Hello, Didier. Nice to meet you again. I have three small questions. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting to talk about pop culture, right? Yeah. So if you read the LexisNexis report last year, they are writing about how MIT and Harvard collaborated and they are developed the Broad Institute.
Yeah.
The reason is very simple because all the American universities cannot beat the Chinese university, especially Tsinghua and Shanghai Jiao Tong. So the way to go, they are developing the Broad Institute with focus on impact, competitive impact, because the two Chinese universities has a very big portfolio that the American cannot compete.
Yeah.
Okay. According our situation here in our university, you know, our university is still developing a university, not a very major university. So not yet we have a very strong academic culture. The first question I want to ask for you is, do you have any clue for yourself how to choose the topic that you can say to yourself, this is a very promising topic for publication, for economical impact, for your ecosystem industry, and etc. So we cannot go to the very strong journal with any promising topic, technically or something like that. That's it. The first question. Do you have any clue how to mention this is a very promising topic? That's it. The second one, we are talking about the pressure for researchers to publish. You know, our university needs our accreditation, indexing growth very high, very fast. But we don't really have a very strong infrastructure and etc. For this developing university, based on your experience, maybe you can give us the best, your best suggestion how to go there, so we can meet the balances of university needs with the professor and lecturer performance to go on the top level of the rank, something like that. The third thing, what is your opinion about AI on university student? This is my student behind me, just asking how to do effectively literature review. So I said to him, you can use, for example, Research Rabbit, but this is we have another problem according academic misconduct, honesty, and extra. Maybe you have a similar experience in your university in France. Could you please tell us about it? Thank you.
Yeah. So, about the first question, of course, so if I summarize, you have one question about the way of publication, the topic, then about how to improve the all impacts, which could have benefits, of course, for instance, for UNS, to improve its progress in rankings. And then, how and is it possible to use effectively AI, for research? So on the first question, effectively, about the selection of the topic, which the selection is really a difficult thing for researchers, because selection means a lot of criteria. Of course, I will say, I already said them to, I'm saying that to all of my colleagues all over the world, because you can encounter the same difficulties than other labs I collaborate with in Africa, for instance, because the technical means, are different. And also because in this rough competition, McDonaldization of academic world, the features of the system are really very different in function of the country. It's same for my colleague in Africa, and you can find about this subject, you can find also papers written by Africans, because they also ask the question, finally, how to work in this pop system with different culture, different context, different political situation, different geographic situation, because in Africa it's very also different, because they met a lot of dramatic situation due to the number of wars they encountered during past and up to now. That's why effectively many African researchers ask a lot of questions about that, how to participate to this culture, pop culture, with such difference between the real conditions of the researcher. And here, a solution could be effectively, and it's very important, collaboration with other countries. And this is, for me, that was very evident thing since the beginning of my career. Because when I started research with my PhDs, from the beginning, I developed collaboration. Of course, I have a personal interest in communication with other people, as you know. And for my job, for my research activities, since the beginning, I developed at first level, so in France, I developed collaboration with other French labs. Because if you find collaboration, and here I will go to more precise definition, this collaboration may be complementary. This is very important. For instance, you like a run, but this is an example. You make your main activity is, I will give two examples. You can, like your fund, for example, your fund, her main activities are concentrated on physical characterizations. Initially, that was that. Due to what? Due to the equipment in UNS and in this department. It could be the same for another one. If another researcher main activity is electrical characterization. That means this researcher has effectively the right knowledges and skills to physically or electrically characterize samples, whatever the sample. That means that what I started, I come back to my personal case. The beginning of my career, I was, due to my specialization in electronics, I'm still, but I started like that. I started with effectively skills and knowledges in electrical measurement and characterization. And the first collaboration I have developed in the past, so long time ago, was to develop characterization with other labs who produce samples. That's why mainly I chose to develop collaboration with chemistry lab. Because chemists can produce different kind of samples. It can be effectively organic samples, inorganic samples, whatever effectively, because effectively and in this way, the collaboration is fully effectively efficient. Because you have a separation between the activities. One is producing samples, the other one is will characterize the samples, and after that, effectively, you will discuss together. Additionally, you can find additional characterization made at different other places. And finally, you discuss in the group of researchers with different skills of the results. And in this way, it's really, really more and more efficient to produce results. And when you got the result, of course, you save time. So you produce good result faster, and you are in the situation you can produce papers faster as well. You see? So this is effectively what I've done in the beginning of my career. I developed effectively connection with other labs which work on different topics, mean completely different, chemistry, physics, or so on, okay? Because in this way you can associate your skills. Secondly, of course, after that, I fabricated, at this time, a strong network of collaboration in France. And after that, I also started to develop materials in my lab. I continued effectively to work with other people because if you have many connection with many labs, of course, you can do many things, many characterization, and then you can work with one group there, another group over there, and in the second step, I developed collaboration with effectively labs overseas or in other countries, in Europe or in far Europe. You saw, you know, in far past also, that's what I said yesterday evening to some colleagues. I started with a collaboration program with Ukraine in Kyiv. That's why I well know this country, because I went there, you know, during 5 years. And after that, I developed collaboration in other places in Europe. Because I have an interest to move and to meet, you know, other people of other culture, of course, and to see other countries. It's very important to develop your personal skills. And by this way, by developing, you know, a large network of collaboration, you continue to produce more and more results. And, but it's important to keep in mind that the complementary activity is a requirement. Very important requirement. It's not possible to develop an efficient collaboration if the other colleague in another place of your country or of the world is develop the same thing than you. No. You will be in competition. Yes. It's not efficient. But if there is no competition on the topic, that becomes complementary. And this way, it's fully efficient. And you will have pleasure to work because you will also learn new things from the other colleague of other specialty. And they will also learn from you. So the exchange will be very positive. So this is effectively how I have worked, you know, since a very long time. That's why my network of research is very developed. And that's why I published many papers with all the colleagues from different countries that finally the list of papers is very long. And as well, effectively, as you go in different countries, you began also to be known at different places, and then it's important because you can be invited for seminars, for conferences, and so on. So there is also an effect for, finally, for giving invited talks at different places. So, second question is, finally, how to improve rankings of establishment.
No, I mean, we have more than 300 professors here in our university, yeah, and almost 2,000 lecturers. What I'm thinking about, I want to have a university with a very good habit. I mean, ecosystem of very happy researchers. It's not quite easy, you know about that. So, based on your experience, maybe you have experience how to develop this ecosystem. You know, here our equipment, our lab is very limited. Yeah. We have also very low budget to fund our research. So do you have any idea or suggestion the way to go there to have a very happy community of the researcher? Yeah. If you're not happy, you cannot produce a very good paper.
You have two different ways, because to improve the quality and also the production, scientific production, in this way, is connected to my first reply. It's important for your nest, for your department, to have connection with other university, other department, especially in Indonesia, because, of course, you don't have sufficient amount of big equipment. That's why you have some equipment, but you need additional characterization, so you will find this characterization in other establishments. So it's very important to develop this link at first with different establishments in Indonesia. And of course it's easier here on Java, because especially around Jakarta, of course, you can find a lot of specialized establishment. You know, effectively, I saw that because I had collaboration with UE, and I still have effectively an active collaboration with UE. I also went to Bandung, ITB. All this effectively high-ranked establishment have also equipment, and there are also other research organisms, where there are interesting equipment. And it's important to have a link with them because you can make additional characterizations that will complete your experiment. This is first part, but next part is effectively for future, as what I've done also. It's necessary to obtain new fundings from your government, and in Europe we have different, that's why you saw I have many projects, because we have to fund it. If you want to make the big research, you have to, especially in hard sciences, you need a lot of equipment, and effectively even the precursors you need for the elaboration of samples are also expensive. So you need to find quite a lot of money. And here in France, we have money, you can find money from the region, and the influence of politicians is important. You have to follow the trend defined by the local politics, of course. After that, we can find the money from the national level, because we have some call for research at the national level. So that means here it's governed by the government. And after that, we have the international level, because we have very big money from Europe. From the Europe Council, there are also fundings dedicated to research. And here, I'm talking about big money. For instance, I've been working for 2 years with 9 other partners, because the complete consortium is 10 partners. So I've been working with 9 other partners located at different places in France and Europe to develop a very big European project. And here we are talking about fundings in million euros. You see? And this huge research project will be developed on 4 years. I will start, next year, because the selection process was occurring during 2 years. From the very first time we wrote the first proposal to we were under, 3 different steps of selection and evaluation. We passed the first level, then the second, then the third. And we were finally selected. But after that, I will receive money during 4 years. And my colleagues also of other labs, like me. And here, effectively, this is what I showed, the pressure due to fundings. And it's impossible for me to say that it's easy. No, it's difficult part of our job because we have to write proposals. And here in Indonesia, I know that, you can do it also because the money is there. There is money here from, of course, you have projects here of funding from effectively UNS, from University, but it's only local funding. It's important for you in future, and this is the global reflection, global thinking about that you can have, for all the staff. about effectively what kind of projects there are in Indonesia, what kind of projects can be funded effectively by the government. And there are programs. Now you have the association of the former RISTEC and Higher Education Ministry. You have only one, is it the same? They have been melted, I guess. But nevertheless, the program of funding still exists. So that's why, of course, that won't be easy because that needs to be selected in this program. This is linked to the first point, I talk about. It's impossible to receive the big money without any collaboration. At first, you have to develop the topic of the proposal. Then you have to fabricate a community, a consortium. So a group of labs that will participate to this scientific proposal. And in this way, you will associate different skills and knowledge from every labs or establishments. In my very big new project, there are not only academics, there are also, some participation of private companies, okay? And in this way, with this large consumption, you considerably increase your chance to be selected for the big money. That's all I recommend you to work for future, to develop the network connection in research here on Java, and then you will be, fully adapted to the application for effectively big fundings from the government. Yeah. So, and the last question was this famous now hot topic of artificial intelligence. I can comment it because I know that effectively it's not really intelligence, huh? Okay? This is, I will say it's a political nickname. Who is intelligent? Not the machine, only you. The humans are intelligent. This is the only most important intelligent species in this planet. So, what is artificial effective intelligence? What is really? What is it? This is for this artificial intelligence. You need two things: banks of data. First, without data, and the bigger the amount of data, the powerful the AI is. Okay? So now, AI, becomes very powerful because since 10 years, they put more and more data into the memory of computers. Because here we are talking about computers, okay? That means this is technical objects, which are what we call AI. So, data alone doesn't function anything, okay? That means, effectively, this artificial intelligence will function because you have very big data banks, and because then you have algorithm. And who writes the algorithm? Who? People. The real intelligence is from people. Okay? But effectively, nevertheless, the program, so the algorithm define how finally the machine must use the data. And then we are talking about automatic learning, because when the algorithm is functioning, finally the machine treats all the data. And here, of course, a machine for treating data is more powerful than human. Because in some seconds, a machine, a computer, can treat data much faster than you. And here, take care of what I'm saying. Of course, the machine can treat data, but you have to take care of mistakes introduced by the treatment of this data, because a lot of mistakes will come out. So, IA doesn't mean good results and efficiency. The production from IA must be verified. If you don't verify the production coming from IA, the system becomes dangerous, because that can be dangerous for humanity. Because if you don't control what's produced by the IA, we will face to very huge problem in future. Yes. Because, of course, the powerful of machine can be higher than the powerful of humans. Because all is connected now. So that means all can be, okay, computed and headed by a machine in this fully connected world. So that's why a machine, whatever, its power, will always produce a result. That's what I'm saying every day to my PhD student. I'm saying, take care, because during the measurement, whatever the characterization, the machine, when you push on a button, will produce one result, one or more. But whatever the quality of your sample, whatever the way you will push on button, on this machine, the machine will produce something. On the display, you will see something. In most part of cases, the result will be false. Because, for instance, in electrical characterization, if the calibration of the equipment is bad, the result will be poor and generally completely false. That's why I try to learn to my PhD students. That's not easy, because now, I'm sorry to say that, young people, you like to push on button due to, this equipment you have every time in one of your hand. Even on motorbikes, you have, even for driving in cars, it's dangerous. They have also this machine, this phone. And this is not smartphone. It's not smart. You can be smart. You can be. So take care to this machine, because the machine will continuously produce result. On the display, you will always see something. But the only people who can say, yes, this result is good, or no, this result is bad, the only people, it's you in front of the machine. So you, scientists, is very important, because we use a lot of equipment, machines, to get the results, and every time you have to control the result or to say, oh, no, it's false. I met these conditions, every time in my research, because my PhD student, they make the measurement, after that they compute, they plot something, and when I see the result, I'm saying, what's that? It's impossible. Because effectively I have the knowledge, I have the background, I can, by seeing something, I can say, no, it's impossible, the value are false or the evolution is false. And effectively, this is the danger with IA. If no one is able to control, all results displayed or produced by the IA, I don't know where we will go in future. But if we use it in a good way, that can be effectively efficient. Because effectively for the treatment of data, the machine is very powerful. As you know, you can make effectively the IA treatment with a very powerful machine, very powerful computer. That's what they have, When you use a ChatGPT, effectively they have, computer and effectively power supply, because computer need a lot of energy. That's why the consumption of electrical energy is going very high and will go very high in future, because these central data banks, use megawatts and megawatts. And by increasing the power of computer, of course, for big computer, you can have very also interesting results by using the powerful of IA, but every time you have to define the result are a function of the algorithm. So the quality of the algorithm. And of course, I repeat it, the algorithm will be made, by someone, one person, one people, one researcher.
Okay, Professor Didier, thank you very much. The time is up. So actually, we want to hear more, but but there is another agenda today. So again, thank you very much for your presentation today and for your answer from some questions today. Thank you very much, and we give applause to Professor Didier. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Didier Fasquelle, for the very useful knowledge today.
And thank you very much, Prof. Nuryani, for being the moderator for today's general lecture.
And thank you for all of you for this attendance today, and hopefully this meeting for today will produce a very useful knowledge for all of us.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the end of the lecture session. Once again, please give a round of applause to our wonderful speakers.
On behalf of the organizing committee, we thank you for being here for this conference. It's a big honor for us to serve you all, and
See you at the next general lecture. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.